Right now on the National Weather Desk. Atmospheric river, California, preparing for another battle with Mother Nature, including the possibility of floods and more heavy snow.
We're not going to have access to gas for a couple days.
It's going to be a tough one.
March Madness, why this month earns its reputation as coming in like a lion.
The top 10 snowfalls, 3 of them happened in March.
Mythbusters will separate fact from fiction in some common weather folklore. And the 92-year-old woman who's been a volunteer weather tracker for 60 years.
I grew up on a farm, and the farm weather is very important.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Eileen Whalen, and we start again today in California, where yet another winter storm is likely to hit the region, bringing more snow, rain, and freezing temperatures. Meteorologist Christina Ernie has a look at what's expected.
The West Coast is in for heavy rain and even some snowfall over the next few days, and it all gets started today as this so-called atmospheric river brings over 2,000 miles of moisture to the California coastline into Nevada and even up into the Pacific Northwest as well. Warm and moist air works in. That compares to the system just a couple days ago that brought heavy snowfall. The next 2 days feature heavy rain, especially into central and northern California, and some higher elevation snowfall is possible too. The big concern here, all of that melting snow is going to create some flooding concerns in a number of communities from Big Sur up to the northern California coastline and into the foothills of the Sierras. We're also expecting the risk of mudslides and difficult travel. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Christina Ernie.
And California residents are bracing for potential power outages and flooding, are stockpiling up on supplies. Felix Cortez takes a look at how mountain communities are preparing.
This Lomond gas station was a popular spot Wednesday as a steady flow of customers rolled in to fill their gas cans and propane tanks just in case the power goes out.
I have a standby waiting to be connected to my house. I just have one. Keep the refrigerator alive.
As of Wednesday morning, Santa Cruz County had gone code red, activating its emergency operations center and warning mountain communities there could be flooding, trees down, power outages, and landslides making roads impassable.
We're not going to have access to gas for a couple days, in between the road closures and the amount of trees that are going to come down. So have at least 3-4 days worth of gasoline.
We're so wet up here. There's no place for it to soak in anymore, obviously, and so yeah, it's going to be a tough one. We've had a lot of people coming in with concerns about what's going to be happening in the next 48 hours.
Well, this morning, we're getting a bird's eye view of some of the damage from the massive snowfall in California's San Bernardino Mountains. And as you can see, the heavy snow caused roofs to collapse on other buildings. People are working to clear the snow before yet another collapse happens. Now, we counted at least a dozen on this building of houses, a blowing alley. And Lake Gregory in the heart of the town is iced over with boats frozen in their docks. Just incredible to see. Well, this weekend, we are going to spring forward with our clocks, and many folks like to think of March as a time when winter weather starts to subside, but that's not always the case. Meteorologist Marshall McPeak takes a look back to show us that sometimes March is when we can see some of our worst winter weather.
15 years ago this week, a giant snowstorm affected a whole lot of the Midwest, and it set some records, specifically some of those in Ohio. So it started on March 7th of 2008, and that day it began to snow, and it kept snowing, and it kept snowing, and by midnight we had 5 inches on the ground in Columbus, Ohio. Then it kept snowing, and it kept snowing, and kept snowing, so that on the 8th we added another 15.5 inches. For Columbus, that's the most we've ever had in a single 24-hour period. But the storm total was 20.5 inches. Across a lot of the Midwest, a lot of the area was shut down for days because of that. Now, fortunately, it was a weekend, so it didn't have as much of an impact as it would have if it had happened during the middle of the week. But one of the important things to remember in all of this, and I realize there's a whole lot going on here to keep track of, but the biggest snowfall ever in Columbus happened in March. Happened on March 8th of 2008. The top 10 snowfalls, 3 of them happened in March. So even though we are headed towards spring later this month, the actual spring equinox is on the 20th, we can still get some pretty good snowstorms during the month of March, and we have to keep an eye on these. We may even get a little bit more by the time we get into the later part of this week. We'll keep an eye on it.
Mother Nature always keeping us on our toes. Well, for the Great Lakes region, even a cold March might not be enough to cover the lakes in ice. Currently, there is no ice in the Great Lakes. And as meteorologist Alan Seals explains, no ice on the lakes can often mean more snow.
High-resolution satellite from March 7th from NOAA's Cooperative Institute for Meteorological Satellite Studies at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. It shows us clouds, but it also shows us some other features of the Great Lakes. For example, they're not frozen. They're not covered with ice. Now, that does happen every few years where they don't totally freeze or stay frozen very long. The overall trend, though, from the Environmental Protection Agency in the last 50 years, fewer days in a year when they are frozen. But check out the little pieces of ice. Now, that's relatively little near the UP, Upper Peninsula of Michigan, also in northern Lake Michigan. And then you look at Michigan and Wisconsin and you see white, not clouds. That's snow. You can tell it's snow because you can see the river channels in the landscape. Lake Erie shows a lot of sediment. So satellite gives us a lot of information, not just about clouds, but also about the environment. And in case you didn't know, the Great Lakes hold 21% of the world's fresh water. Isn't that great? I'm meteorologist Alan Seals.
Well, while parts of the country are still dealing with winter storms and snow, others have a different coding of concern: pollen. Aaron Wise spoke to doctors who say some people are already feeling the effects of it.
That's pollen blowing in the breeze. You can find it just about anywhere right now.
Because we've had such a milder, winter. And so the season just arrived sooner than we're normally used to.
Doctors are already seeing more patients with spring allergies.
Springtime is our tree allergens, and then summertime's our grass allergens. So that's what we're seeing are people that are tree pollen allergic.
Many are experiencing congestion, drainage, sore throats, itchy eyes, and coughing.
And we have some people that have never experienced allergies before, and with this year being so unseasonably early, they're developing allergies and they don't even know it.
Are there any common misconceptions that you see around this time of year?
My mucus is green, so I know it's an infection. Well, that's actually not true. Color doesn't mean a lot. So it's usually from the pollen. Your body's kind of that filter, right? So it's going to change colors when it's filtering things.
Dr. Colleen Donahue encourages people to try plain allergy medication before assuming an antibiotic is needed. Another misconception:
I have other medical issues, so I can't take anything. That's not true. Pharmacists are great guides on those things. Your primary care is always going to be able to tell you what you can and can't take as well.
The Alabama Department of Public Health says taking showers and washing clothes after being outside and keeping windows and doors shut can limit reactions.
Well, for some, spring weather brings more than just pollen. It comes with an increased wild animal activity. March is coyote mating season, so it's not uncommon for the animals to be spotted close to homes. Luke Jones is in Cincinnati with more.
This is how Paul Strasser summons his flock. He runs Red Wolf Sanctuary just outside Rising Sun, Indiana. And while he's invited these coyotes to be here, the truth is many of us don't get a say when coyotes eye our yards. The good news, we're not coyote food.
You're 3 times taller than that coyote is, right? So unless you're holding a pork chop in your pocket, you're not really all that desirable.
But you do need to keep your small pets in, and don't leave pet food out. Keep in mind, coyotes are omnivores, so even bird feed can be enticing. Strasser says if coyotes can't get food at your place, that alone should be enough to keep them away.
Coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll take a look at a few weather myths and find out if there's any truth to them. Plus, we'll hear from a woman who has been tracking weather for more than 6 decades. That all still ahead.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. We've had a fair amount of clouds, breezy conditions, and on and off rain and snow showers in the Northeast the past couple of days. And a few more of these going to be rotating from north to south, especially in New England during the course of the day today. Afternoon temperatures will top out upper 30s and low 40s. Now, Friday's looking pretty good for most areas in the Northeast. Notice through parts of New York, though, we're introducing a little bit of light snow, maybe even with some rain through northern New Jersey. For the most part, this storm is going to miss the Northeast to our south.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region, starting off with a chill early Thursday morning by lunchtime and beyond. Very similar to what we've been seeing, about average for this time of year. In the upper 40s, Baltimore will be at 52 at Richmond, 48 at Philadelphia, and 56 down Richmond way. And temperature settling into the 40s to near 50 as we wrap up the day. Dry, cool overall, fair weather, high pressure, and good control. Next weather maker waiting in the wings across the Midwest. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vetus Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. Raleigh, 63 degrees. Nashville, 59. 60 in Birmingham. About 77 in Mobile. We'll get down towards Tampa, 84 degrees, 77 in West Palm. Looks like we do have high pressure shifting off to the east over the Atlantic, keeping things clear around Florida. But we have this little cluster of storms pushing across Tennessee and just north of Atlanta. Maybe some gusty storms in the secondary front will be pushing through. So the next couple of days, we'll have some rain over parts of the southeast.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
This is rain blowing in the wind days ago in Alabama. And this is not rain, not dust, but pollen taking flight. Allergies not far behind. Now to New York and a stunning lakeside end of day, complete with a pillar extending above the sun. The National Weather Service says sun pillars often appear at sunrise or sunset when cirrus clouds are present. Ice crystals reflect the sun rays while falling slowly through the air.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Instagram.
Well, we have all heard of different weather folklore, but are they rooted in reality? Meteorologist Cheriston Clark digs into some of them.
Myth or fact? Can lightning strike the same place twice?
Yes.
No. That's just one of the questions I asked people at the Mount Pleasant Waterfront Park. Chief Meteorologist Dave Williams explains that lightning can strike the same place more than once.
Lightning strikes the same place twice frequently. We have this big thing called the Ravenel Bridge over here, and the Ravenel Bridge gets struck hundreds of times per year by lightning.
The next common myth, is heat lightning real?
Yes.
But Dave says,
Heat lightning, a lot of people think that during the summertime when you see a thunderstorm in the distance, there's lightning, and they think that lightning is spontaneously generated. It's not. It's generated by a thunderstorm that's far in the distance, and you can't hear the thunder because it's so far away, and usually it's at nighttime, so the light travels a lot farther, and you can see it from long distances.
and when it comes to tornadoes,
you want to make sure that you're in the safest place possible.
Should you open your windows during a tornado?
No, I'd say not a good idea.
Yes.
It doesn't matter whether your windows are open or closed. It's not a pressure difference that knocks your house over. It's the actual wind speed, picking things up and hitting your house with things like debris.
Dave's best advice?
Just make sure you're prepared for a disaster no matter what it is.
Well, most of us these days use apps on our phone to check the weather or tune in to our local newscasts, but there are tons of different tools used to predict weather these days. Meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael is in Columbus, Ohio, and shows us one weather forecasting tool you might not have heard of.
Hey everybody, what a beautiful day we've got here on the banks of Broadcast Lake. Now, we have plenty of sunshine today thanks to high pressure, but last Friday, completely the opposite. I posted this photo on my Facebook page and a lot of people had questions about this. This is a storm glass, and basically the right side there will go up and down depending on the air pressure. What was unique on Friday is that it was the highest I've ever seen that. And the reason is because we had a historically low pressure system going right over Ohio. As a matter of fact, Columbus, Ohio had the 4th lowest air pressure ever recorded. What does that mean? Well, it means you've got this area of low pressure that's not pushing down on the atmosphere. Instead, it's lifting it up, and you get really turbulent winds behind that as that's strengthening. And we had that 60, 70 mile per hour winds on Friday with all of that rain. We set a daily record for rainfall. Today, though, it's completely the opposite. Take a look at the storm glass from the day today. A lot lower because this high pressure is pushing down on us today. So the high amount of pressure pushing down, and all we have are these fair weather clouds here, not as much. So there you go. If you want to check out these, you can find them on Amazon just about anywhere. Just look up storm glass. They're only about $10 or $15 and pretty cool. When it rises up higher, anticipate rain or a storm on the way. If it drops, good news is you got sunshine and blue skies.
Those things are definitely fun to have. Well, if you want to see more content like this, be sure to follow us on social media, where we post a ton of content from our meteorologists. So we're on all of your favorite platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. And now to a Maine woman who has been a daily weather watcher for more than 6 decades. Arlene Cole is 92 years old and still tracks conditions every day. And as Asia Reed reports near Portland, tracking weather is Cole's habit.
I've always been interested in the weather. I grew up on a farm, and the farm weather is very important.
It was back in the 1950s she got started. Arlene took over the job for a friend who died and worked as a weather observer for the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, known as NOAA. Weather observers are a group of more than 7,000 volunteers across the country that tracks and reports weather conditions.
This is the
Arlene received this letter 65 years ago, certifying her as an official weather observer. Arlene says she has every record she's written kept inside her briefcase, from tracking rain, temperatures, and snow.
Rain, snow.
She says a lot of volunteers most likely use computer technology to track weather, but for her, it's all pen and paper. Arlene's friend who passed away left all of her weather equipment behind. When Arlene first started, she would go outside each day and check the temperature. In 1984, she got new weather equipment that allows her to check the temperature right from her kitchen counter. Arlene plans to track the weather as long as she can properly. Once she can't, she says she'll finally retire.
I love that story. Well, in Wisconsin, it hasn't been the best winter for snow lovers. Now, snowmobilers are looking to get in one more ride before the end of the season, and that could be great news. Eric Peterson has more from Green Bay.
Snowmobiles are on the move on these trails north of Townsend. Riders are taking advantage of a season that may be coming to an end.
Yeah, we've had some up and downs.
Red Arrow Snowmobile ATV Club trail boss Mike Malig says the season opened at the end of December, but northern Oconto County was hit with several severe swings in the weather.
We had to close a little bit in January there because it just got too warm of weather, but that was for less than a week. And then we had ice. We had a lot of ice this year.
Malig says that ice made it hard to get around. Club President Bob Berth says running this groomer over the group's 65 miles of trails is challenging.
With the heavy wet snow, it tends to collect on the drags and it piles up on the drags.
Berth says recent snows have piled up.
And then we got about 16 inches more of snow, and we've got enough snow to work with in the woods right now. We're in good shape.
But club members admit it may be too little, too late.
The sun is high in the sky, and it melts wherever it can touch the snow, it starts to melt. So if it starts to melt through, I see the grade a little south of town is melting through. So if it'd be cloudy and about 30 degrees, it'd be perfect. But I think we're going to see sunshine and about 35 degrees. So it'll still be good, but there'll be some bare spots.
In the meantime, those who use and maintain the trails make the best of it.
This weekend should be good riding. Next weekend will be tough.
Well, higher temperatures in the Arctic could lead to potential health threats in the future. NASA climate scientists say the warmer conditions are causing part of the region's permafrost to thaw. And that's if the permafrost thaws significantly, some viruses that have been lying dormant for thousands of years could emerge and possibly endanger animals and humans. Well, as we head to break, let's check out an aerial view of Manawa, Wisconsin.
Good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael taking a look at your weather story across the Midwest today. It's a pretty active day. We've got snow across the northern plains here. A lot of snow, especially there in South Dakota, with rain to the south. Now, this all moves its way towards the Great Lakes in the Ohio Valley heading into your Friday, while it is a little quieter across a lot of the plains. Now, as we roll on into your Saturday, we're getting more snow to kick into the north, rain to the south, and then by Sunday, that will continue heading over towards the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. We're starting off a little warm down toward the south, 60s and 70s, a little cooler up to the north because of dry air that's sitting there. Gulf moisture is what's really contributing to the warmth. We'll see a weak cold front push through the region today. Could help fire up some rain back up across Oklahoma and into Arkansas. Otherwise, temperatures will continue to stay above the normal. That front will be just too weak to cool it down. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there and a good Thursday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out west, we're trying for drying, but we've got more soggy weather starting to steer toward the west coast. Temps including 28 out of Jackson Hole, a pleasant enough 77 for spring training around Phoenix. But the next weather maker is going to bring that increasing rain. Boy, look at that. Back into San Francisco, Portland, and Seattle as we head from Thursday night into Friday. Heavy mountain snow in the Sierra as well. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, it's Severe Weather Awareness Week in parts of the country, so we are highlighting ways that you can stay safe during dangerous weather systems. So to do that, we turn to meteorologist Sonia Stevens in Charleston, South Carolina.
Today, we're going to talk about straight line winds,
and large hail. So straight line winds are not associated with the tornado. So it doesn't have anything to do with the rotation of a tornado. They can exceed 125 miles per hour. And most of the damage that comes from thunderstorms is because of straight line winds. Now, when you're talking severe hail, we're talking hail that's greater than 1 inch in diameter. It causes more than $1 billion in crop and property damage each year. Again, let me reiterate, make sure you do have a way to get warnings during severe weather.
Always so important. Come to your TV and check this out. It is a photo that the Boise, Idaho Police Department posted on its Facebook page. It shows the snow starting to fall near Warm Springs and Walling. And if you look closely, you can see the cross that sits atop Table Rock shining through the clouds. What a magnificent photo. We'll have more coming up right after this quick break. Well, Monday we have a special episode of the National Weather Desk. We're going to look back at the blizzard of '93, and we want to hear from you. Share your story or video. Just head over to our Twitter page and share. Just search the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Eileen Whalen. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great day.